Clayface is back in another episode, but is Mudslide as good as Feet of Clay? We're going to find out as we talk about it right now. Hello friends, welcome back to the show. So glad to see you again, and if you're new here, thanks for coming by. I hope that you'll stick around and hit the subscribe button, because this is the show where we talk about Batman the Animated Series each and every episode and review them now 25 years later. So if you grew up on Batman the Animated Series and became a huge Batman fan like me, then this is the channel for you. And today we're talking about the second appearance, well, I guess the third episode, because the first time he was there was two-parters, one story, 2 episodes. Now it's the third episode, second story. The second or third appearance of Clayface in Mudslide, which originally aired September 15th, 1993.
Run for your measly lives. Run from Clayface!
As you know, I'm a huge fan of Clayface as a villain, and so I'm very excited to see him back in another episode now in Season 2, but you're going to have to stick around to the end to see if it stacks up against Feet of Clay. But before we get into all that, we're going to do my 60-second rundown of the episode with the Joker bomb, 60 seconds of the clock. Here we go. A couple of security guards are guarding some office building, and one of the security guards goes outside to check out things out there, and the other guy stays inside and sees him walk back in, and he goes, "Whoa, I didn't think you were done already," and he goes upstairs into the elevator, and then he looks on the monitor and sees that the other guy's still outside, so he goes upstairs to see who this imposter is. He walks in, pulls his gun, and finds out that it's the owner, what looks like the owner of the building. His picture's on the portrait, and he goes, "Oh, gee, I'm sorry, I didn't know anybody was here, but what about your accent?" Then it turns out that he's Clayface. Batman's getting ready to go home because Alfred has a goose in the oven, and he goes, "Oh, I got an alarm at this office building." So he goes over there to see that Clayface is there. They fight, they duel, they battle, and Clayface gets out on the street, and Batman's following him, and he goes, "Oh, you're not looking so good. You're slower than you used to be." And then a car shows up and swoops Clayface away, and Batman is left to analyze some of his stuff. He goes, "I think he's falling apart," and then it's through a hint that Alfred gives him that, "Oh, what about movies," that he figures out where this lady is holding him, and she is helping him, trying to get him better and put him into the shell, and she goes, "Oh, the only way to counteract this deterioration of your body is to get this certain piece of tech, which is at Wayne Tech, of course." And so he goes there to steal that, and he gets back, and he's trying to use this and put this into his body, and it seems to be working, but Batman stops him, and then they fight, they duel, they fall outside, and it's raining, and he's falling apart, and she goes, "No, you got to come back inside." And then they're rolling along the cliff, and he falls off the cliff. He goes, "Oh, save me," and Batman's trying to sell him, but he falls apart, and he says the line from his movie, and the curtains are coming down, and he's all dramatic, and he falls into the water, and he dissipates, it dissolves away, and that's the end of the episode. So close.
Please don't take this the wrong way, sir, but your goose is cooked.
Now, Clayface is another one of those villains that's not overused in Batman the Animated Series, which I appreciate, because he's such a cool villain that I could see where they could really wear this out. And they're very deliberate about when they use villains like this. And it's very evident that in this episode is that they waited till they had the right story to tell before they brought in this villain. It wasn't like they just had a story that they wanted and went, "Oh, we need a couple of villains, so let's throw the Clayface in there."
I don't need your help, Batman.
The other thing that's cool about this episode is it is a continuation from the other episode. It kind of builds on him as a character, and as a tragic character, that he's just trying to get back to be a human again and to get his form back. There's an evolution of the character. So now we're seeing his body is now deteriorating, and it's not holding its shape like it used to. And that's what's propelling and motivating this story as we go along. And so all of those things are really great about this episode. However, that because of that, they've put a lot of challenges in front of Clayface, and even Batman says,
"You used to be faster, Hagen, not to mention neater."
By putting kind of this deterioration element into the story, well, then they lose some of the cool factor of Clayface in the process. And so the action in this, especially in the beginning, is not as strong. Batman is basically just walking behind Clayface, and he could have easily captured him. So again, it's kind of a give and take, is that I like that the idea is that he's falling apart and that he's trying to just find a way to cure himself, and she's helping him cure himself. But at the same time, it makes him a weak villain and not a formidable threat and not a challenge to Batman like he used to be.
Matthew, get in.
The crimes that he's committing in this that gets Batman on his trail is he's stealing money. That classic villain motivator is they're trying to get money.
Step away from the safe, now!
On the other hand, he is stealing money not just to steal money for greed's sake, but to get money to pay for all the research and the equipment and the lab equipment that the woman that's helping him needs to get him back to being Matt Hagen and human again.
It's okay now, Matthew.
So again, it kind of splits down the middle that, no, I don't like it when the villain's just motivated by greed or getting money, or that's the crime that they're committing. But at the same time, it's justified in the story's sake.
Protected from human thieves, maybe, but not from Clayface.
Now, in this episode, we also introduce a new character, this female scientist that's helping him out and his new confidant to do the research to get him healthy and make him Matt Hagen again. I'm not sure what happened to his assistant from Feet of Clay. Maybe he finally got tired of his ways and left him. But we have a new character. We have a new person that's in there helping him and researching and doing all this work to try to put him in this shell, this casing, to get his form back. But they justify it because she's in love with Matt Hagen and watching the old movies and has become a huge fan of his.
Susan! Wait. I love you, Susan. You cured more than my body. You cured my heart.
And so that's her reason of being involved in this. But at the same time, we lose a bit of that mystery. We know from the very beginning, in fact, we know right from the title card that this is a Clayface episode. So in the beginning, when we're seeing these crimes happen and him posing as other people, we know it's him. We know it's Clayface. We know what's going on. And so we're just waiting on Batman to figure it out. And he does finally figure out where they're at, because once again, a offhand comment that Alfred makes clues Batman in on looking to the movies that Matt Hagen had been in.
Closest thing Hagen had to a relationship with a doctor was in the film Dark Interlude. In it, he plays Eric Chandler, a senator who falls in love with a plastic surgeon treating him.
That's it. His movies.
I have to say, one of the parts that I'm not totally crazy about in this episode is towards the end when he finally does get that tech or that chemical or whatever that was to, I didn't quite understand her explanation.
A new isotope. MP40. An experimental mutagenic adaptogen.
But when he finally gets that and she's injecting him with this and he feels it's working and he's feeling better and you start to see his face taking form of Matt Hagen again, Batman shows up and unplugs the machine or shuts it off.
No!
Batman! No! Turn it back on!
And this whole time, the whole story is that Batman's trying to help him. He's trying to get him back to the way he was. And I get it. I mean, stealing's wrong. You shouldn't do that. But he stole from a Wayne company.
The only large source is Wayne Biomedical Labs.
I feel like if Batman had the capability or the technology to help him, and maybe he didn't know it, and the scientist figured it out, that he'd go, okay, well, let's give it a try. Let's see if it works. But he makes the comment that
It's over, Hagen. The lab boys can take it from here.
So I don't know why he stopped the process and in turn just turns Clayface, Matt Hagen, against him again. And when he should have said, okay, well, you shouldn't have stolen, but hey, if this works and this gets you better, then everybody wins.
You've upstaged me for the last time, Batman.
The other thing that was kind of interesting to me about this episode, watching it now 25 years later, is when I was a kid watching this, I never realized that she was putting him in some sort of suit.
Without the suit, your structural integrity could go at any time.
I didn't realize that, even though I remember seeing him kind of break through that at the end. I always thought that machine was like pressing him together, or it was baking him or crusting his outside to kind of keep him contained. but she refers to it as a suit. So I don't know if it's something like a shell that she's putting him into, but because it was his same color, I always thought that that was him. And maybe I'm still confused on that, but that's how I took it anyway.
I don't know if I could stand this much longer. Trapped in this suit, surviving on chemicals. It's a nightmare.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, I'm a huge fan of Clayface, and I enjoy seeing him. Just the simple fact of him being in this episode, and there's a lot of shape-shifting that goes on, especially in the beginning, and that's all very great, and that's fun. But I don't feel that it stacks up against Feet of Clay. In fact, it falls pretty far away from that. I like that they evolved the character and that they gave him some challenges and kind of added some new elements to his persona. But at the same time, I feel like that hindered him so much that there wasn't a great threat or a great mystery for Batman to have to face or to solve. And I get it that this is more of a tragic episode and we feel more for the character in that. But I think that the whole storyline of him trying to steal this material to get well and make himself whole again just wasn't enough to keep it too high on the list. So I ended up placing it at the number 32 slot of my favorite episodes so far. Just below Blind as a Bat, because that one in a similar fashion puts Batman at a disadvantage because he doesn't have his eyesight. But even though I had my challenges with that episode that I wanted to see him rely more on his other senses, it still put him in a position where the Penguin was able to be a quality threat and a quality challenge to overcome. Whereas in this episode, he's falling apart and it makes it easy for him to be stopped. But I do have it beating out the Cat in the Claw because, again, I like these smaller stories, and I appreciate that this one is more of a one-on-one story versus the global trying to stop Gotham City from getting blown up kind of story as it is in Cat in the Claw.
Time for your final bow, Batman.
So let me know, do you like this episode better or worse than Feet of Clay? And what are the reasons for you that you like this one better or worse than Feet of Clay? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button. And if you want to see more of these episodes, just hit the subscribe button. You'll see all the Batman reviews and all the extra content that comes out along the way. Next Tuesday, I'll be coming out with my next Batman the Animated Series review with The Worryman. A few of you have suggested that episode for it to be coming up, and it's next up in the running order. So next Tuesday, I'll be reviewing that episode. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode, and I'll see you soon.